everyone. I am Kareem McMichael with Things Around Town, Savannah. You are watching one of my first episodes here, and I'm happy to have an amazing guest. We have Mr. Anthony Maxwell from the Yamacraw Restoration Project. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
That's good. Well, I'm glad you take the time to be here with me today to talk about this. It's going on your fourth year now doing Christmas in the Craw. That's what we're going to be talking about.
It's actually the fifth year.
Fifth year.
Someone told me the other day, I was like, oh my God, it doesn't seem like it's been that long, but it's 5 years now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning. I love to talk about history here. Let's talk about what inspired you. What was the foundation for starting the Yamacraw Restoration Project? What do people need to know about it, and how can they find out more information about it?
So the Yamacraw Restoration Project was just basically an idea that a couple of people came up with. Jerome Meadows, who designed what used to be Yamacraw Art Park, and is now a square. And then a good friend of mine, Bob Spell, and then Dr. Torre, all of us were just kind of getting together, and then someone came up, I believe it was Jerome came up with the name, the Yamacraw Restoration Project, because he designed the park looking from the steps of the church, and he always envisioned the park to be about community. And then when it became a square, which we pushed for, and we finally got that to happen, that's really where the Restoration Project kind of came out of, just people who wanted to preserve Yamacraw and the history.
And giving that deep history that Yamacraw has to African American heritage, as well as dating back to about the 1700s, can you talk about, for you, what inspired or how did music become a part of this art and history? You know, you talked about it as well, you have like 3 powerhouse people there, you all joined forces to start this part of it, but then let's talk about some of the initiatives and art projects that you all have done over the years.
So with working with First Bryan is the church that I grew up in, because I'm a native of Savannah, and so growing up in First Bryan, we were always surrounded by music, and I'd always heard that back in the day, long time ago, that you would hear the jazz on Saturday night, and you could go from block to block in Yamacraw, the community. And then come Sunday morning, everything was silent, and all you could hear was church music, gospel music, and the church bells ringing. Because during that time, before the housing projects actually came, there were about 11 African American churches down in Yamacraw.
Wow. See, I just learned something there myself.
Right,
everybody trying to get some knowledge.
Well, the historian for the area is, one of the historians is Georgia Benton. And she gave me that wonderful story, which I cherish. And that kind of birthed this idea that she had, was called Music in the Craw. So under the umbrella of this idea of Music in the Craw, the Gullah-Geechee Gullah music of Yamacraw Village, is what we have now is Christmas in Yamacraw. We had just recently last year, we had a great, wonderful time where we called it Jazz in the Craw. And it was a jazz festival that we had down in Yamacraw Square. And we had all these wonderful musicians like Joyce Walker, and we all came and we performed, and it was absolutely amazing. So under that umbrella of Music in the Craw, we have Yamacraw, the Christmas in Yamacraw, and then we'll have other programs like, we're gonna have like a folk music festival. We're planning that, and then we have a classical music festival, and all this is under the umbrella of the whole auspice of Yamacraw, this wonderful community that has existed for a very long time, even before James Overthart came and founded Savannah, quote unquote. Yamacraw was there, and it was a vibrant community of Native Americans, and so we want to also highlight that part of the land as well. We've been in touch with the Yamacraw Indian Nation tribe, which is where the Yamacraw Indians associated and they assimilated with. And so we just hope to bring all of that back to the community.
How impactful has First Bryan Baptist been in bringing the communities together with you all and with your initiatives?
Well, First Bryan is the oldest, First Bryan sits on the oldest parcel of real estate owned by African Americans in the nation. That's pretty powerful when you think about it, and just that history that comes behind First Bryan is phenomenal, and we want to continue to highlight that along with First African Baptist Church. A lot of people don't know this, but the two churches were one, and they split at some point, and then one stayed on the land and the other took the name. So it's a great history that needs to be highlighted, and it needs to be remembered, and it also needs to be preserved. So we're really working very hard to preserve the history that is of Yamacraw. The church just recently, we wrote and was very successful, which was a blessing that we got a grant through the African American Action Heritage Fund, which is the larger umbrella of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, to preserve the neighborhood, to preserve the church. So we're we got the gutters fixed, we got things done to the roof and the gutters, and it's just been exciting, because this is what should have been happening 25 years ago, 30 years ago. Andrew Bryan, the founder of both churches, which started the Black Christian movement in America, we're just carrying the torch. I mean, he got the land when no one, people didn't think he was even an actual human being. He was able to acquire this land in 1793, and we're just carrying on the tradition. We're taking up the torch as young people, just trying to preserve the community.
And speaking of young people taking up the torch, let's talk about some. I can't remember. There was like an event or two, like some years ago, I went to, and it had such a fun time with a lot of the youth in that area. Just some of them wanted to be camera people, some of them wanted to be actors, some of them wanted to be athletes. The list goes on. Let's talk about what are some things you have for the youth. How can the youth get involved? In what ways would you like to see the youth being involved with?
That has definitely been something that we've been working on. Like, we've been, each time that we have Christmas in Yamacraw, we make sure we center it around the kids. You know what I mean? So the kids can come. There's wonderful things that they can do. Like, we have, they can come and see people actually singing, live singing, and then after the program, the kids, we have hot dogs, and we have candy, and we have hot chocolate, and we just let them rip and run in the park area and just have a nice time. And so I think that's important. And I think what we're trying to do is really trying to add continuous mentorship programs for the kids, because I grew up in Yamacraw. I grew up in Yamacraw Village in Yamacraw, so every weekend I was in Yamacraw, and people always said, you can be a junior deacon, or you can be this, and you can do that, or you can start with things that you know how to do. And I think the first time that I actually started working with the church on that level as a teen, I was in the National History Day competition. And everyone in the church really, really pushed me to be the best and to do things in that area. And I won, and then I went to the state level, but it was because of the church. The church was there. They were supporting me and say, you can do this. And I think we still need to do things like that for young people, to show them that they can be all they can be.
With this event, what has been some significant growth that you all have had, and things that have just been an enjoyable experience for you watching this grow? I know, like, planning any event, you have some nights and some days where you like, yikes, but you push through, and you really have been with this, and I'm happy to see that continue. So what have been some things for you that have been just a joy to see, watch grow and develop?
Well, I have to say that I did not have any experience writing grants, but I do believe in this community, because this is where I grew up. These are my people. My grandfather, my great-grandfather, and my great-great-grandmother were all a part of this community. My great-great-grandmother was a midwife in Yamacraw. And so it was like, every time I come home to Savannah, from my home in New York, I would feel like, we got to do something to make sure this community is preserved. So when I started the whole process of writing the grant, I didn't know how to do it. I was like, but you know what? But I had the willpower, and I had the spirit to say, we got to do something. We can't just sit around. You know what I mean? And so I think that was an aha moment. A light came on for me. I was like, okay, if you put your mind to do something, you can do it. And I believe that's what I've always been taught about the people who helped raise me in First Bryan Baptist Church and in the Yamacraw Village community, was that put your mind to it and you can do this. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that was an aha moment for me, and I've tried to pass that on to other people, because it's not something that belongs to me. It belongs to the entire community.
And let's talk about that other part of the village and the community. Can you talk about some of the performers and people that we'll see, or what details can you give about, who's going to be on the lineup for the event?
Okay, so we have some wonderful people that are going to be coming on. One of our jazz singers is Joyce Walker, and Joyce was a part of the program when we had the jazz festival in Yamacraw Square, which is called Music in the Craw, the jazz series. And so this particular Christmas series, we're going to have some other musicians along with myself. Tony Roster Sr., amazing guitar player, and Chris Disa.
Okay.
Chris Disa used to be the chairman of the Savannah Folk Music Festival, and we're super excited to have him come out. He's going to be playing some great folk music for us, And so that's the energy that we have right now. Is that this is a community that deserves to be saved, deserves to be appreciated, deserves preservation, and we just haven't seen that that support. And so, but like many people say, if you can't ask someone to support if you're not supporting. So that's why I said I'm gonna step in and give some of the skills that I have based on the fact that this is where I came from, and these are the people who helped me become who I am as an adult. So I have to give back. You know who told me that? And I'm gonna tell you the truth. Mr. W.W. Law told me before he passed away. He looked at me one day and he said, the young people have got to start coming back to Savannah to give back what's been given to them. And I just looked at him, I was like, and I thought it was kind of funny that he would say that to me. And as a younger person, I didn't quite get it. I thought he was kind of sort of chastising me. But then now as an older, younger person, I totally agree with what he was saying. And that's why I'm here today, because people like him took the time to mentor me and say things to me and move me in the right direction. I can remember many days. I can remember one time where Mr. W. Law took me on a walking tour, black tour of Savannah. We walked from his house off of Victory Drive all the way to Yamacraw Village and down to Yamacraw. It was the longest day of my life. But I had such a great time, and he introduced me to people in the neighborhood, and all of those neighborhoods that were phenomenal people. They're no longer around, including him, but those are things that I cherish. But it's only because he took the time to invest in me as a young person. So
I always love to when people answer my questions before it was like the spirit, because that really wrapped up with my life.
No, I'm telling you, it's the truth, though. It really is the truth. Yeah. And let me tell you something else too, Kareem. So in New York, I'm in the Bronx one day and I'm chilling, relaxing. This lady comes in and she said she has on a hat, and as you know, I'm a hat designer. I'm a milliner by trade. And so I looked at her. I said, "That's a beautiful hat you have on, beautiful sister." She said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Well, I'm from Savannah." She said, "Me too." I was like, "Are you serious?" She was like, "Yes, I'm from Savannah." She said, "Now who are your people?" And I already knew where that was coming from. I was like, that's a Yamacraw saying when they say, "Who are your people?" And I said to her, she said, "Now wait a minute, I'm 100. I said, "Really?" I said, "Girl, you look good." And she said, "I am 100. She said, "So tell me who your people are." And I told her who my great grandfather was, Nelson Brown, who used to have a business down in Old City Market. And she said, "I know him very well." And she gave me my whole entire history that day. And I'm just thinking, and she said that she and her grandmother lived in Yamacraw. And I was like, wow. And just that day, I mean, she gave me chills because she took me down to Savannah 100 years ago. And I was like, who could do that? And the vibrance of what she was saying was that it was a community and it was beautiful people and we all loved each other. And I was like, we have to preserve that. We have to preserve that.
And a part of that preservation will be happening on December the 6th, so make sure you're there, Saturday, December the 6th at 5 p.m. Well, thank you again for being here with me today. Thank you all for tuning in to Things Around Town Savannah. You can follow my Substack page, Things Around Town Savannah, and find out more information about this event and others going on around town. And you can find this interview on Things Around Town Instagram page, as well as Kareem McMichael. Thank you.